What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about franchise fatigue in Call of Duty. Well, you could probably pull out a huge list of potential factors for people burning out with the franchise, especially a lot of the longtime fans that have been around the franchise for well over a decade. You could pull elements like the matchmaking system, for instance. I know that's been pushing a lot of people away. Today, in this video, I wanted to focus a bit more on the big picture rotation of the games within the series, because I think they've been making a pretty big mistake here. And I do think it's been contributing a lot to the franchise fatigue in the past couple of years. Now with this, I'm not only talking about the typical fatigue we've been seeing from annual releases in Call of Duty, where there's always a new one every single year. Instead, I primarily wanted to focus on the new rotation that we've been seeing, which is back-to-back Call of Duty games within the same sub-franchise. So back-to-back Modern Warfare games, and now apparently back-to-back Black Ops games this time around. But let's first touch on the whole annual cycle fatigue. This is something we've seen brought up a ton over the years with Call of Duty, and as much as many people express their desire for CoD to move away from having an annual release, and instead stick to either one CoD that just gets continually updated, kind of like CoD Mobile, or maybe just longer cycles per game, so you only get a new Call of Duty game every 2 or 3 years, at the end of the day, I just don't see this as being a realistic thing to expect anytime in the foreseeable future for the franchise, and the biggest reason for this is simple. It would leave far too much money on the table. Each Call of Duty game every single year brings in roughly $1 billion in sales revenue right up front. And then on top of that, another billion plus, usually more than $1 billion in post-launch sales throughout the year for that game. So if you took one Call of Duty game and just continually supported it long term, while you may see somewhat of an increase in like microtransaction sales, for instance, since people would feel more confident buying a skin if they know it's going to be around for the next several years, I really don't think that increase in microtransaction sales is going to account for $1 billion in lost sales revenue every single year by not releasing a new CoD every year. So the conversation about that could probably end right there, because money is what makes these decisions, and that's a ton of money they'd be leaving on the table, and that's just not going to happen. However, another issue that arises with potentially moving away from an annual release and having just one CoD that's supported for the next several years is Call of Duty over the years has moved in so many different directions and attracted a very diverse player base that wants totally different things for the franchise. And I'm just not convinced that they could make that one perfect Call of Duty game to be supported over several years that would keep the majority of the player base around long term. Like, just picture your least favorite Call of Duty game, and then imagine that's the Call of Duty game they use as the baseline, as their blueprint going forward for the next 5 years, and they just build off of that. For many, that would mark the death of the franchise for them, and they'd be gone entirely. Whereas with the annual cycle that we have, if you dislike the direction they've taken with the current CoD, there's always hope for the next one, and you know it's coming in the next year, so you can just take some time off from the current CoD, play some old CoDs or play some other games, and then come back when the new one comes out, and it's likely to offer something at least somewhat different from the current game. And honestly, I think this is one of the things that has kept the franchise running as well as it has for so many years. It's been 20 years now, and they seem to be doing pretty good overall maintaining players long term. So the annual cycle, I think, is here to stay. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. However, I do think they've made a big mistake with this new rotation of having back-to-back Modern Warfare games and now, apparently, back-to-back Black Ops games. And the big issue with this new cycle is the hope cycle for the next year. If you don't like the current game, it's now disrupted, at least to a degree, since the next game is going to be taking place in the same sub-franchise. So if you're kind of burnt out on Modern Warfare, you're probably not going to be too happy to see another Modern Warfare game coming the following year. It's not as simple as just taking the rest of the year off and waiting for the next game that's going to offer something very different, because you're still going to be stuck in the same sub-franchise. And I feel this is the case even if they do make some fairly big changes, like they did moving from Modern Warfare 2 to Modern Warfare 3. They had a totally different gameplay design philosophy between the two, and multiplayer-wise, they play drastically different. However, moving from Modern Warfare 2 to Modern Warfare 3 still isn't going to feel nearly as different or fresh as moving from a Modern Warfare game to a Black Ops game the next year. And it really has me wondering how different the reception would have been if, coming off of Modern Warfare 2, we actually got Black Ops 6. And then after Black Ops 6, we get Modern Warfare 3. I think we would have seen significantly better reception for Modern Warfare 3 because a lot of people would have been missing Modern Warfare at that point. And even if it was the exact same game, I don't think we would have seen nearly as much of the backlash with it being just a DLC, because for many people, they'd just be excited to go from a Black Ops game to a Modern Warfare game again. So personally, I like the older method they had of rotating between Black Ops and Modern Warfare games, usually with some wildcard games mixed in there as well that weren't part of those sub-franchises. And I think that really allowed the annual cycle to work so well, because if you like Call of Duty overall, but you're not really a fan of the Modern Warfare sub-franchise, for instance, that's okay. You just take that year off when Modern Warfare comes out, and you know that something different is going to be coming in the following year. So for these players, they may not be engaged with the current CoD all the time, but long term, they're still engaged with the franchise overall. Whereas with this new cycle, being stuck with the same sub-franchise for multiple years, that could be the type of thing where once players take a couple years off, at that point, I think many of them break free entirely from Call of Duty and they're just no longer engaged with the franchise at all. Now, another big issue that we see with this new style of cycle with these back-to-back games is it really seems like the first year out of these back-to-back games, it gets practically abandoned fairly early on in its life cycle because the devs from that game that should be supporting that game, they've largely shifted their focus and energy onto releasing the next Call of Duty game, and they don't have a whole lot of time to do that. They don't have several years before having to worry about the next game they have to shift. They've got to get it ready to go the following year. And it really felt like this with Modern Warfare 2. It seemed like the community was just being ignored with so many things. There were so many issues and things that needed to be fixed, and other improvements that could have been made to the game, but just never made it into the game. And it feels like we're seeing some of this with Black Ops 6 as well at the moment. It does feel like there's just a skeleton crew left to give the bare minimum level of support just to kind of get through the year until we get to the next Call of Duty game. So we can't really expect any major improvements or fixes or quality of life changes with the current game, because why would they work so hard to fix or improve the current game when they're going to need to sell the next one in 6 months' time? In fact, that's a great way to sell the next game, is market it as the game you wanted the current game to be. And that's basically what happened with Modern Warfare 3, at least in my eyes. That was the game that many of us wanted Modern Warfare 2 to be. Many of the improvements we wanted to see throughout the life cycle of Modern Warfare 2 that we provided feedback on immediately, even in the beta of that game, they were just largely ignored, and I think a big part of that is they knew that they were going to have fixes to that in the following year, and they wanted to make sure that they use that as a selling point for the next game. So it seems pretty clear to me that there are some big issues with this current cycle, and I don't think it's sustainable long-term for the franchise. I think we are going to be seeing a lot more franchise burnout if they continue with a cycle like this. So what are the solutions here? I think the first one is obvious, and that is stop doing this back-to-back sub-franchise situation. No more Black Ops games leading into Black Ops games or Modern Warfare games leading into a Modern Warfare game. Instead, I think they need to break that up, and perhaps it's time to invest into a new sub-franchise under the Call of Duty brand and commit to working through the growing pains of that new sub-franchise. Like, how many Modern Warfare or Black Ops games are we going to get at this point? Are we actually going to be seeing Black Ops 12 in 2034? I think part of the overall franchise fatigue we're seeing is also just fatigue with each of the individual sub-franchises. I think many people are kind of sick of Modern Warfare or Black Ops in general, even if they're not necessarily sick of Call of Duty overall. Now, I totally get why they keep bringing back Modern Warfare games and Black Ops games, because they have their own brand recognition on top of the Call of Duty brand. And I don't see them going anywhere anytime soon, but I do think we desperately need something new and fresh to go alongside them and to mix up the rotation a little bit. Now, it is unfortunate that it seems every time they try to branch outside of a Call of Duty game that's not Modern Warfare or not Black Ops, it doesn't really seem to pay off as much, and then we don't end up seeing a sequel for that game. But that should be expected because there isn't that same brand recognition, which is why I think they really need to commit to more of a long-term strategy with that and accept the fact that it may not perform as well early on as Modern Warfare or Black Ops, but if they keep putting more into it, then it can grow into its own thing. The problem with this, though, is the way corporate structures work and the fact that they can't seem to see past the next fiscal quarter or two. So investing in long-term strategies and decisions is not something you often see, but that's a topic for a different channel entirely. That's way outside the scope of this channel. But with the idea of a new sub-franchise, for instance, I look back to like Call of Duty Ghosts or Advanced Warfare, just as a couple examples. Were those games perfect? No, not at all. But they were also their first entry into the Call of Duty franchise, at least as a sub-franchise. And they were never given the time to work out mistakes and establish themselves as a third sub-franchise. They never got a second game to work out the kinks and expand on their story and create more long-term attachment to their characters. And I really think if they were to commit to a third sub-franchise and let it find its footing over multiple entries and just accept the fact that the first one or two of them maybe aren't going to perform as well as a Modern Warfare or Black Ops game, but if they stick with it and really invest in it, I think it could pay off big time in the long run by mitigating franchise fatigue and adding that third sub-franchise into rotation. And I would love to see Sledgehammer take lead on this. I think they're definitely capable of that. They handled Modern Warfare 3 very well. And I'd love to see them develop their own sub-franchise from scratch with their own characters, their own story, and be able to run with it over multiple iterations, not just a single one-off game. I think if they did this, it would be awesome to see that consistent 3-year rotation of Modern Warfare game, then a Black Ops game, then whatever the new sub-franchise is, and you just continue in that loop over and over again. And each of them could have their own unique feel and their own unique tone, but they should all at least somewhat fall into the general Call of Duty mold. If they did that, each of these would also be on a 3-year cycle, so they'd have at least some time to cook each of their games. They used to do it on a 2-year cycle just fine, so 3 years should be reasonable enough as long as there isn't any major development disruption. And I think long term, that would really have a positive effect on the franchise, especially compared to what's been happening in the past couple years with these back-to-back Black Ops and Modern Warfare games. Now, of course, these are just my opinions on this specific topic here. And this is where I want to hear from you guys in those comments down below. First off, how do you guys feel about the fact that they have been doing back-to-back Modern Warfare and now apparently Black Ops games? And do you think it's time for a third sub-franchise to be mixed in there on a more consistent cycle that breaks things up a little bit more so you're not stuck with the same sub-franchise multiple years in a row? Would you guys be happy to see this or not so much? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.